The moment the news hit, Hollywood held its breath. Gene Hackman, an icon of the silver screen, a man whose very presence could command any scene, was gone. He had lived a long life, long enough that his passing wasn't entirely unexpected. But the circumstances surrounding his death, those were anything but ordinary. Found lifeless beside his wife and one of their beloved dogs, the tragedy raised more questions than answers. And then there was Robert Duvall, Hackman's closest friend for decades, who uttered a chilling phrase when reporters pressed him for a statement. "I tried to warn everyone." What was he warning about? What dark truth lurked beneath the surface of Hackman's life? Was there something only Duvall knew, a secret buried beneath decades of friendship and struggle? As we peel back the layers, one unsettling fact becomes clear. Gene Hackman was not the man the world thought he was. A bond forged in struggle. Before they were legends, Gene Hackman and Robert Duvall were just two unknown actors clawing their way through the brutal realities of show business. Their journey began in the 1950s at Pasadena Playhouse, a prestigious acting school with a notoriously rigid grading system. From the start, Hackman was an outsider. He was older than most students, a former Marine with a no-nonsense attitude that clashed with the school's traditional expectations. The Playhouse was not kind to him. Within 3 months, he was expelled, told he lacked the talent to succeed in Hollywood. A lesser man might have given up. Instead, Hackman took that rejection and turned it into fuel. Duvall lasted longer at the school, but both men understood what it meant to be dismissed as unconventional. Hackman's height, deep voice, and hardened demeanor made him stand out, but not necessarily in a way Hollywood was looking for. He wasn't classically handsome, and his intensity sometimes unsettled casting directors. Duvall, equally talented, faced similar roadblocks. Together, they fought against the odds. They weren't just chasing a career, they were proving a point. The fire inside Hackman. Hackman left Pasadena first, determined to carve his own path. He landed in New York, scraping by on odd jobs. Money was always tight, work even scarcer. When Robert Duvall arrived in the city later, Hackman had already built a scrappy existence. The struggle was relentless. They took any job they could find, typing, moving furniture, working as doorman, just to keep the lights on. Dustin Hoffman, another young actor in the trenches, even slept on Hackman's kitchen floor for weeks. When that became impossible, he moved in with Duvall. The friendships they formed in that cramped, uncertain world weren't just casual. They were forged in rejection, hunger, and an unwavering belief that they had something to prove. But amidst the camaraderie, there was something darker in Hackman. A drive so relentless it bordered on obsession. Hackman carried a chip on his shoulder that never seemed to leave. Every rejection, every failure, only hardened his resolve. He wasn't just fighting for a career, he was fighting for respect. And anyone who stood in his way felt the full force of his temper. Even in their early days, Duvall saw it, Hackman's explosive nature, his inability to back down. He wasn't just intense, he was unpredictable. It made him a great actor, but it also made him dangerous. He's not who he seems to be. Robert Duvall's warning wasn't an empty one. He had known Hackman long enough to see beyond the awards, beyond the acclaim, beyond the carefully curated Hollywood image. He's not who he seems to be, Duvall once said, cryptically hinting at a side of Hackman the public never saw. The intensity audiences marveled at on screen wasn't just acting, it was who he was. Unlike most actors who softened with age, Hackman never lost his edge. His temper, if anything, grew with him. On set, he was a perfectionist to the point of confrontation. He clashed with directors. He had no patience for mediocrity. He expected the best from himself and demanded it from everyone around him. That drive made him a legend, but it also made him feared. People call him Vesuvius, an homage to the fiery volcano that could erupt without warning. And erupt he did. His anger wasn't just a tool for his craft. It was a storm he carried everywhere. But Duvall suspected there was something even deeper beneath Hackman's volatility, something unresolved, something festering, a man haunted by his past. Gene Hackman never forgot where he came from. He never forgave his father for abandoning him as a child. He never let go of the sting of rejection, of the people who told him he'd never make it. Even after winning 2 Oscars and cementing his place as one of the greatest actors of all time, he still carried that resentment. He had been underestimated once, and he never let it happen again. But that kind of anger, that kind of drive, comes with a cost. Duvall had seen how it consumed Hackman, how it isolated him, how it darkened him. His talent was undeniable, but so was the turmoil beneath the surface, the mystery of his death. And then, one day, he was gone, found lifeless beside his wife and their dog. A tragedy, a mystery, and Duvall, his closest friend, left behind with only a warning. I tried to warn everyone. What did he mean? What did he know that the world didn't? Was Hackman's past finally catching up to him? Or was there something more sinister lurking behind the curtain of his life? As we search for answers, one thing is clear. The legend of Gene Hackman is far more complicated than the world ever realized. The mysterious life and death of Gene Hackman. Gene Hackman was never one for the Hollywood spotlight. Even at the height of his career, he avoided red carpets, declined interviews, and resisted the industry's demand for constant public appearances. But when he retired in 2004, his disappearance wasn't just about stepping away from acting. It was something far more deliberate. He vanished from public life almost entirely, retreating to Santa Fe, New Mexico, and cutting ties with nearly everyone, including his closest friends. One of those friends, Robert Duvall, had seen it coming. Hackman had always been a man who needed control, and in his final years, he controlled one thing completely: his isolation. But was it merely a choice, or was there something darker lurking beneath the surface? A man who turned his back on the world. Unlike many retired actors who bask in nostalgia and make public appearances, Hackman did the opposite. He severed ties with Hollywood, refused interviews, and disappeared into the quiet life he seemed to crave. Some believed he had grown disillusioned with the industry he never fully embraced, while others suspected health concerns played a role. In his last public statements, Hackman admitted that a heart condition had influenced his decision to retire. But those closest to him, including Duvall, suspected there was more to the story, something Hackman never spoke about. Then, in an eerie silence, he was gone. A death that left more questions than answers. When news broke that Gene Hackman and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, had been found dead in their home, the world was shocked. But the circumstances surrounding their deaths raised even more questions. They were found together, along with one of their dogs, in what appeared to be a peaceful but unsettling scene. There were no signs of a struggle, no forced entry, and no immediate cause of death. It was as if time had simply stopped within their home. But the most chilling discovery was Hackman's pacemaker. Medical examiners determined that his last recorded heartbeat had been 9 days before his body was found. That detail changed everything. It meant he had been dead for over a week before anyone even noticed. Theories and speculation. Investigators initially suspected carbon monoxide poisoning, but extensive testing found no trace of it. Their attention then turned to the large collection of prescription medications found in their home. Some bottles barely touched, others half empty. Could it have been an accidental overdose? Or was there something even more unsettling at play? Even though authorities later concluded that their deaths were due to natural causes, many questions remain unanswered. Robert Duvall's warning. What did he know? Robert Duvall, heartbroken but not surprised, had been trying to warn people for years. Hackman's isolation wasn't just the retreat of an aging actor, it was something much deeper, something much darker. Duvall had known Hackman for decades. Their friendship had been forged in struggle, tested by time, and strengthened by shared experiences that most in Hollywood couldn't understand. He had seen Hackman in his rawest moments, when he was still an unknown actor desperate for a break, when frustration boiled over into fights, when his obsession with proving himself consumed him. But Duvall had also seen the shift, the gradual withdrawal, the way Hackman had begun to push people away. It wasn't an overnight change, but rather a slow erosion of his connections. By the time Duvall fully grasped what was happening, Hackman was already too far gone. Hackman had always been a private man, but his final years took that to an extreme. Even lifelong friends barely heard from him. When he cut off contact, Duvall suspected something was wrong. He tried to reach out, but Hackman made it clear that he wanted to be left alone. That, in itself, wasn't surprising. Hackman had always been stubborn, always carried a certain intensity that made him difficult to approach. But this time, it felt different. Duvall knew Hackman better than almost anyone, and he saw the signs that others ignored. This was a man who, in his younger years, had abruptly disappeared from nights out just to pick a fight, simply to expel his rage. That bitterness never truly faded. The stress, the anger, and the burden of a life spent fighting for recognition had to have taken its toll. Had years of pent-up rage finally worn him down? Had the isolation he craved plunged him into a loneliness he couldn't escape? Perhaps we will never know the full truth behind Gene Hackman's final years. What we do know is that he lived and died on his own terms. He spent a lifetime proving people wrong, fighting to be seen, to be recognized, to be remembered. And yet, in the end, he left the world the same way he entered Hollywood, alone, underestimated, and full of secrets that only those closest to him could even begin to unravel. What do you think led to Gene Hackman's reclusive final years? Was it simply the need for peace, or was there something deeper at play? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.